Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. My co-host Robin and I take tremendous amount of pleasure week after week showcasing different women from different walks of life, creating impact in a deeply meaningful way to drive the intentionality of how women can help other women invest in each other and thrive together because of that collaborative spirit. And you are going to absolutely love our guest today, who's Robin is going to have the honor of introducing. But I want you to think about what is the difference between men entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs? What are the burdens that are additional that female entrepreneurs carry while they are harmonizing their personal life with business and other responsibilities? At the same time, how society views female entrepreneurs, how investors and the support system and the ecosystem rallies around or lack thereof to support the success of women entrepreneurs. And we are going to have a very robust conversation about what are some of the lessons learned and how we can truly support each other and create an environment where we are continuing to shift the narrative and we are truly making every female entrepreneur successful. Take it away, Robin.
Awesome. We are so glad to have Jessica back on our program. She was a guest about a year or so ago and with her brand and co. And now she's doing other great things with another organization called Full Tilt. And we would love to hear how that transition happened and what it all involves and how you're still continuing to support women and encourage women with what you do.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be back.
Lovely to have you. So let's get started, Jessica, with talking about how did you go from the organization you were running to becoming part of Full Tilt, and how did that transition happen?
Sure. So, I think we have to back up probably around 18 months or so ago. And I actually wrote a two-piece article about this on my LinkedIn. So anyone is welcome to go read those. But very, very big picture was my co-founder and I, Mari, of Her Branding Co., we were feeling very burnt out, like most entrepreneurs, right? So after many, many months of deliberation, lots of soul searching, lots of different conversations, and the big catalyst for us was actually a trip to Italy that we took together the summer of last year. So the time that we're recording this, the summer of 2024. We ended up taking a group of founders to Italy for a business renaissance retreat, and it was so transformative for all the reasons that you can imagine, including for us. And that was also one of the reasons that we wanted to do that retreat, is that it would give us time to connect in a different way. And I'll never forget, after one of our sessions that we had with our founders, Mari and I were just sitting down with just like, delicious cup of coffee and some pasta. And then we both just had tears in our eyes and we were just like, we can't do this anymore. Not that we couldn't do it together, but just each of us were feeling so burnt out for so many different reasons. So I'll speak for myself. Up until that point, I had been an entrepreneur for 12 years. This is my second company that I had grown and scaled. I have two girls that are 3 and 8 at the time of recording this. And so my life has evolved a lot over the years, different responsibilities, different types of caretaking needs that are required of me that weren't required a decade ago. So all that to say, that set Mari and I on a different creative conversation about what would the new version of Her Branding Co. look like, right? Would it be some sort of strategic partnership? Would it be an acquisition, a merger? Like what if we just remove all barriers and think through creatively what we could come up with? And our advisor at the time, Ali Kriegsman, she's a best-selling author, just a wonderful person. She's also the former co-founder of Bulletin, which had a pretty large public exit. And so we talked to her and she was like, I think we should really think about acquisition. And this is why. And here's how I think that, the different assets that you could sell and why it would be sellable. So then we started along the path of acquisition, and that whole process took about over a year. So it takes a lot out of you. Maybe we can get into that as well. But Full Tilt ended up being our final acquirer. And the founder, her name is Lisa Tilt. She has been the founder and CEO of Full Tilt for going on 20 years. She's a women-owned business. So it was mission aligned, vision aligned. The conversation was aligned, lots of mini conversations to get us to the point of acquisition. But that's kind of the long story short is we knew that we had grown Her Branding Co. up to a certain point. And during that, our sort of like teary-eyed session in Italy, part of that grief, processing that grief was it's not that we didn't know what to do. We knew exactly how to grow the company. We knew exactly what to do to get it to the next stage. We just had to be honest and say, do we have it in the tank to do that? And in order for us to continue doing it under those parameters, we would have had to have raised funds, which we didn't want to do. We were a service-based, bootstrapped, profitable business since day one. We did not want to be beholden to investors. Or we had to go into debt. And both of those options were something that Mari and I did not want to do, which is why acquisition, strategic merger, partnership.
Beautiful. I'm interested to continue learning about, in making the transition, what have been some of the positive adjustments that have happened, and then some of the less than desirable or unforeseen consequences that maybe you didn't know about that maybe you could ameliorate later on down the road.
Yeah, sure. So lots of positive things happen as part of this acquisition. There's been quite a few things. Number one, so I'll kind of talk tactically. Number one, figuring out how to actually go about an acquisition and bringing your customers along with that process. That was really important to us. Her Branding Co. has always been very transparent, very open. Mari and I are educators, our entire, thousands of founders on our platform. They look up to us and they really trust in what we say. So we wanted to be honest and let them know that changes were coming to Her Branding Co. and also find a really beautiful, inclusive way to bring them along this story. And so Mari and I created a video together. We're actually sitting here in my home office and kind of just tossed it back and forth. And the metaphor we came up with was this concept of, we have this beautiful garden, right? Her Branding Co. is this garden with these gorgeous flowers. And we love this garden, right? Full of colors, lots of different life and vibrancy. However, if we want the garden to now grow fruit or vegetables, we have to plant different seeds. And so our garden can still exist and our customers can still enjoy the garden that we planted. It will live there and be there. But if we want to bear new fruit or bear new life, we have to do it a different way. And that really resonated with so many of our customers. So I think number one, something beautiful that came out of it was all the support from telling that story, telling it authentically, and bringing our customers along that journey with us. I know that really meant a lot to them. So I wanted to touch on that. The other part of it was, now that we have successfully completed this acquisition, I have to look back on the stat, but I want to say it's less than 2% of founders, women entrepreneurs specifically, will ever get acquired. So we've hit a threshold that I'm really personally proud of. And I really believe that we can increase that number, and we should increase that number, right? A rising tide lifts all boats, so to speak. So as part of that process, we really learned a lot about what you should be looking for in a strategic partner. And for us, I knew that I wanted to stay on, whereas Mari wanted to do her own thing. I said before earlier in our conversation, I have been a founder for 12 years. So I was like, listen, I am good to be on a team. I am good to contribute in a super meaningful way. I don't want to carry the weight of the ship anymore. I have done that for far too long. It's impacted my health, etc. I want to make some changes there. Whereas Mari, this was her first business. So she's never been Mari Inc. So that was also part of our conversations with each other, is figuring out, okay, if I go with, what does that look like? And if Mari decides to exit, what does that look like for her? And being really honest and transparent about that. And then sort of the last part of it, dovetailing, is now that we are officially a Full Tilt company, we have a team of almost 20 people that we can now run this business with. We have so many different diverse resources. Mari and I were the kind of exclusive educators for several years, which worked really well during that time of growing the business because we wanted to build brand trust and really create significant value. But now we've got almost 20 people who are all marketing experts. Full Tilt is an integrative marketing agency. So it does internal communications and external communications. Everything that the founders need can now be delivered by a much larger team with much different resourcing. So that was a strategic decision of the acquisition to be able to continue the vision of HBC, continue the mission, but do it in a new and meaningful way and have that garden bear new fruit.
I am absolutely delighted to hear the metaphor about a garden because I consider myself a constant gardener. What you cultivate, what you weed, what you water is what you reap, right? So that makes absolutely perfect sense to me. And what's coming up for me is continuing on this theme of garden. It also then takes into consideration not all plants in your garden is going to have flowers. Not all plants in your garden is going to bear fruit. Some are going to be edible, some are going to be ornamental, and they're going to be different seasons, right? Same way, different businesses, different female entrepreneurs who are your clientele, they all have different purposes, different seasons, different trajectories. How are you able to serve their individual purpose and still stay grounded in your purpose?
That's such a great question. So this actually brings me to kind of answering your second question, Robin, which is some of the less desirables or struggles from this. So one of the big things that I personally went through, and I actually, I've been trying to write a lot more recently. I'm a writer at heart. So I also wrote another article about this on my LinkedIn, which is about how to sort of healthily disassociate from a brand that you are so close to, right? The same way that our customers come to us for our advisement, we also needed an advisor, right? Because we're seeing the business like this. We're in the weeds every day. We have a totally different perception. And so now coming on board Full Tilt, I'm now officially the head of learning as well as still the co-founder of HBC. And so my new job is to be able to think through what is HBC, her brand and co, HBC 2.0. And I was feeling so blocked, right? Because you have to remember, I have a decade's worth of experience of building this company and all the things before that sort of I just take with me. And it's really hard to disconnect from that very differently than if I were looking at a business from a completely objective perspective, right? Your brain fires in different ways. And so I kind of went on this like 3-week sabbatical and just kind of got lost in a dark hole and really, really, what's what I'm looking for, push myself to think about this business differently. And that was a significant challenge. And what I did to help with that is I created a digital war room for myself. So just like a big, digital space where, and some people could use a physical space. I just happen to do it digitally for this purposes. And I renamed the company. I made up a complete fake name. I came up with like a random logo on Canva. And I just had to find a way to completely remove myself from all the story and the narrative around her brand and co, good, bad, and indifferent, so, because it was clouding my creativity. And as soon as I was able to do that, I was able to unlock and think through what are the new things for her brand and co, which comes to answering your question, which is we needed to really be honest and thoughtful about what our mission and vision is and continue to stay, as you say, rooted in that and stay grounded in that. So the original mission and vision for Brand & Co. is to democratize access to marketing education. Marketing is the second reason businesses fail outside of access to capital. It is the top number one issue for female founders, sales, leads, anything related to marketing. And so that vision and mission will continue. What we're trying to, and I think successfully going down the process of figuring out, is how do we deliver on that mission and vision? And that is what, in my sabbatical, I was brainstorming on and really trying to figure out. And we have some very exciting things coming that I can't announce yet, but they will be coming in May/June. So coming up very, very soon. And we've created something really innovative. And as a quick side note, again, a benefit of being a part of Full Tilt is I had a research team that I could leverage. And I was like, here's all this data that founders have given us over years and years and years of survey data. Can you synthesize this? What insights can we glean? And having someone else look at the data that's not me or not a co-founder was super helpful in figuring out what do they need. So now we are just trying to do this matchmaking exercise of what do they actually need? And what are the ways that we can serve that need that is aligned with the business goals and objectives? And that's really what 2025 is all about, is checking all those boxes and creating an ecosystem that will allow her Brain & Co to do all those things. And I feel like we're about 93% there.
That's beautiful. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about what Full Tilt does, like as an umbrella company, and how I know it's women owned, women forward looking, but are there specific things it does in addition for women? And then Cass will wrap it up for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah. So Full Tilt, as I said, is women owned and operated. Lisa Tilt is the CEO and founder, and she recently, Full Tilt recently became a certified women owned business through WeBank, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, which is one of her Brain & Co.'s partners. So super happy about that. But Full Tilt is big picture an integrated marketing and communications agency. Primarily, they work with mid-cap companies in highly regulated industries. And we like to say that we work with clients who are momentum organizations. So these are typically brands that are highly acquisitive and very non-sexy industries, which we love, right? So manufacturing, any type of manufacturing, any sort of like electrical, solar, wind. One of our clients is the oldest LLC in the world. Fun fact, it's a brand over in Finland. We have a client who is over 100 years old who produces the lion's share of Canadian bacon. So just very interesting, diverse type of clientele. And really what they need is elevating their employees. So while we do have an external communications practice that does, brand awareness and PR, really the value proposition of Full Tilt is its deep expertise in workforce development. So how can we make sure that your company, through your internal communication strategy and external communication strategy, is being elevated and seen as an employer of choice? How are you retaining top talent? How are you reducing churn? And my role now as the head of learning is to figure out how to integrate programming and a formal educational division to be able to deliver highly performative programs to the client. So that's kind of the quick 360 of what we do at Full Tilt.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Jessica, so that our audience have some perspective. And we will make sure that the URLs, the links to not just your LinkedIn site, but also your business is provided along with the release. If there was one word of advice you would have for female entrepreneurs, what would that be? And then I will wrap this up.
Yeah, I'm asked this a lot, and I teeter-totter back and forth. I would say the one piece of advice is you don't have to do it all, and in fact, you shouldn't be doing it all. I'm teaching a session right now called The Leap, which is all about this concept of ruthless prioritization. So, especially in marketing, where there's shiny balls and 1,000 things you feel like you need to be doing. And I think that's really the great Trojan horse of why founders are feeling so burnt out, is because they are literally doing it all because they think they have to do it all. So that's my big piece of advice, is figure out what are the core needle movers of the business, the real needle movers of the business. And over 70 to 75% of your time as a founder should be spent on those things. And we have to learn to release the rest.
Fantastic piece of advice. And that includes letting go, right? Women naturally want to gather everything and nurture everything and bring everything towards its intended success. And that by itself burns us out. So I love that piece of advice that you gave. And to our audience out there, remember, as women invest in women, we can create these ecosystems where we can collaborate and fill in those gaps for each other. None of us have to do everything, but together we can get everything accomplished. And so creating those sustainable ecosystems and truly approaching this as a co-creative enterprise, to each of us build our brands, but then we support each other's brands. That is where the true progress is. And as we thrive, we can invest in each other's business and we can change the conversation and we can change the paradigm, because the notion that men don't invest in women's businesses and women are all just now entering this entrepreneurial world is the struggle. But also the silver lining is women are going to be inheriting and controlling a good half of all the financial assets in the world, in the United States specifically. And that also opens up doors. So stay tuned, keep watching this space, get engaged and involved with women investing in women. And Robin and I will continue to bring you conversations and insights with amazing women that you can become networking ecosystem partners with. And together, we definitely are going to be breaking the cycle. Thank you very much, and go make magic happen.